for live stream. Did that go
Right.
live? Yeah, that's live. Why didn't that show it? Okay.
And we should probably show that.
Yeah, I can probably, if you find a link to it, Magwell.
Magwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me start the recording here. Hey everyone, welcome to the New Media Show. We're getting a little bit of a late start today. I'll talk about why. For those of you joining us live, thank you so much. Make sure you check in on Facebook and say hello. Those of you that are listening to us, we want to hear from you too. You can always email us, todd@bluebear.com or robg@libsyn.com. That'll get to both of us if you have a comment about the show. But of course, I want to welcome Mr. Rob Greenlee on his brand new camera today. You're all centered up and looking great. Have you had a chance to white balance that camera yet, or are you just playing?
I have not.
Uh-huh.
But that's the next thing that I probably need to do.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, you're close. And so you get that thing white balanced and tweak it, and yeah, you're gonna look just like me. So a nice, sexy and fresh on camera.
There you go. That's what I'm shooting for, Todd. It's the sexy stuff, right?
Yeah, but I've got a little bit of I need to learn to now. I have to put suntan on my head because this morning my sister's son, my nephew, graduated from high school and can't have parties. Right? They couldn't walk.
Right.
They couldn't go to award ceremony. So what do? Well, we live literally in the country, so they had a drive-up party, whereas I'll probably put some pictures up on Facebook at some point, but they had stations. In other words, stop, get a picture with the graduate, and right from the car, he stood outside, and I sit there and took pictures, and then they drove up a little bit, and we had someone there with refreshments, and the next station they drove up, they were there, they could have some pick of food, and it was prepackaged stuff that they had warmed up, all in a baggie and handed sanitarily across. And then there was an area where they could kind of stop if they wanted to talk with the parents and, just car side kind of discussions. And so we had like 8, 9, 10 cars at any one time kind of stacked up on our road. There's no traffic on my, there's traffic, but if there's traffic, they go around. So it was kind of a unique way of doing a graduate party where no one congregated. Right. They were all in their vehicles, and we stood outside and chatted, and it worked out. A few people stopped and got out, and we explicitly made sure everyone did the social separation. And there's a lot of family that came that wanted to hug, and it's hard to tell family. We got to
elbow bump, right?
We got an elbow bump, and you got aunts and uncles. I'm like, listen, this is for your protection. You're the elder here. For your protection, we love you, but we have to, and that kind of was the actual only thing that, because the family members were the one going to come up and grab you, so, so it went pretty good, all things considering, and
so it sounds like it. So is everybody wearing masks too, and all that stuff? Too,
people that drove up in cars. Only one car was wearing masks. Everyone that was handing stuff out, we're outside in the road, so no one was wearing masks outside. But everyone was basically, there was that. Probably the closest someone got was handing something into a passenger side window. There was no sticking. So like the graduate would put would stand up beside the car, and maybe there would be 3-4 feet separation between the graduate and the closest face. But it was just for an instant click and then, step back. So, but again, this county has got in the entire time has only had like 60 cases. So, and a couple of people came in from Ohio. So, what can you do? You do the best you can, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, that sounds good. It sounds like, a lot of active measures were being done, and I think that's what we all have to do. Right.
And I was kind of like the traffic cop. I was the one saying, hey, you guys are too close for people who had gotten out of cars. And even though we were all out in the front yard, it was kind of like one of those situations where, I get to look, but they would separate. But I was like being not acting like security, but being the traffic cop. And it worked well. So, and I think that's what you have to do. I think that's what people are going to have to do. If you're going to have some sort of event, you're going to have to assign a couple of people to be the meanie,
Yeah, that's right.
and just,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and just tell them, hey, you're too close, move apart. And there was only and we've got an acre and a half. And so the front yard is like 50 feet by 30 feet deep. So plenty of room for people to separate. And so anyway, that's what we did. So anyway, and he
Sounds
got,
interesting.
and my nephew got to have a little bit of a party, and his friends were the biggest. The kids were the hardest ones to actually,
Right.
because they wanted to congregate.
Follow those rules, right?
Yeah, they were the ones who were hardest ones to keep from congregating, and
that makes sense.
and I probably got the most dirty looks from the teenagers, but I didn't know any of them, so I was just I'm this old dude. It's and I said, you want me to take a picture and put this?
Cool,
I actually kept telling them, you want me to take your picture and post this on social media, and that would kind of then they would kind of separate.
Well, Todd, I was thinking about this. The same kind of thing to some degree. It's good that you raised it about when we all do go back to going to real events, and how do we think these real podcasting events are going to change? So let's say Podcast Movement does actually happen in October. What is that experience? How is that experience going to change because of it? And I've been thinking about that.
Well, I think if we all are cognizant of each other,
right?
And it's hard, because a few times I was like, I need to get some more. I washed my hands a few more times than I would have.
Right.
Then and if I'd just been hanging out with the family, I wouldn't have done that. But there was just a few more times that maybe I was up and getting close to someone, and so it's something to think about. We're going to have,
it is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have Dan on eventually here, Dan Franks from Podcast Movement, and maybe we can have Jessica back on from the She Podcast to talk about how these events are going to adapt to this new kind of perception. It's, I think they could go back to just doing things like they've always done, but I have a feeling that most people are going to be a little bit more scared of getting too close to people again. And if you think about these events, I mean, think about kind of the launch parties and the after hours events that we are typically used to doing, right?
Right up on
crammed together in this little tiny restaurant or something like that.
I don't see that happening.
Right. And so how does the exhibition floor change because of this? How does the meeting rooms change because of this? I mean, I think chances are they're not going to have as many people show up to these events anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think Podcast Movement could maybe lose half of their attendees.
I think half, at least half.
Right. Which means that there's going to be more room because there's fewer attendees, right? Maybe. Or they could space the chairs apart or something like that. But I think it's really going to crimp the style of one of the core benefits of going to an event, and that's the social networking part.
Well, one thing to think about, though, is if this, and then we're not doctors,
right.
if this bug, let's call it a bug,
right,
doesn't do well under heat and sunlight, well, we're not going to have an issue with outside events in Dallas, because Dallas is, at that time of year, is like thermonuclear.
Yeah, as I say, nothing survives outside for very long.
Right. And it's still plenty hot
and I'm one of them.
It's still plenty hot in Texas at that time of year. So
right. It could be well over 100 degrees.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe evening events will be outside in bigger venues, and I don't know. I guess we'll have to see and how this progresses over the summer. If the numbers go down or if the numbers keep climbing, and again, we're just going to have to watch it. And matter of fact, I had an email conversation with the Podcast Movement folks over sponsorship, and they were, I'll say they are doing right for the folks that had asked to sponsor, and I basically said yes, we'll still continue to sponsor, and we're not going to pull out. And we did talk about what happens if they cancel and, those types of things. But I think that here's the way I look at it, and I hope other podcasters will too, and think about this hard. We need to make sure these events survive to next year.
Right.
They have committed to having events at venues, big venues where there is. So we need to make sure that we do our best to try to make sure these events survive. Or next year, we're going to be crowdfunding to help these events
get started again.
Right. Because this can be devastating for them financially.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess and everyone has their own comfort space. And again, we've got a number of months here. But
I think it's important, Todd, for this conversation to happen too. Have Dan on and Jessica to talk these things through, so the community knows what to expect.
Yep.
And and hopefully it can assure people enough to gamble and go right. So to keep this stuff going.
So I do want to. We've got quite a few people online. I want to say hello to Mike, Stephanie, Kendall, Rick, Jed. Who else? Greg, Sean, Al, Addie. Thanks all for joining today. Make sure that you say hello if you've joined on. I've seen you've joined the live stream. We appreciate that you're here today. But
Todd, and I sent you a couple of links.
Oh yeah.
On the one to my new camera that I'm using and the capture card. So if you wanted to show.
Yeah. So Rob is, for those of you that are curious, Rob has been upgrading, and let me flip it here to get the right screen. So he's using you've got an AX43 4K Handycam. So that's the camera you're using now. And that's what that looks like. So you went pretty big on expense, but you can double this as a 4K camera too. So, but it's got a nice Zeiss lens on it. So that's, I shouldn't have, I brought it up here. So
yeah, there it is. Yep.
Yeah. So nice camera. And then you've got that plugged into, let me bring this up. And I have a whole bunch of these here in the studio as well. Wait for that to load. For some reason, that's not loading as fast as the Sony page did. You've got a capture card from Magwell, and these are pretty expensive too. These are about, what was that, 300 or was it 400?
$299.
$299. And what you do is you plug your HDMI in to from any camera.
It's truly plug and play. You plug it in and it works.
Yep. And then it plugs in USB to your computer. And basically what you've got there, it shows up as just like a webcam does.
Right.
And that's why I use these on this picture you're seeing here of Rob. That's run through a Magwell. That's how I get, let me think about this. This is how I get signal. I use a little different one of these. I have a HDMI. No, let me think. Yeah, it's how I get video back to you.
Mm-hmm.
I have some stuff I have some of these are SDI, some of these are HDMI, but I've got 3 or 4 of these, and they're just a simple little device, and they work really, really well. If anyone finds any of these cheaper, but again, it HDMI in, and they plug it into USB, and it shows up just as a web camera. But
yeah, it's called Magwell, and it's MAGWELL.
MAJE, yep, WELL, yep. So I've been using these things for years. Literally, I've had this same, and basically for the setup, if you want to see what it looks like, this is how easy it is. It just plugs HDMI into USB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a couple other things to think about is that you need to find a camcorder, an SLR, or something like that has what they call a clean output. So because some of them will display with all the functional touch activities on your screen, and you don't want that to display in your camera.
Most camcorders have a function. You got to dig around to find it, because when you first plug it in, you see all the same stuff you see on the webcam or on the camcorder, and then. But I think, Rob, looking at your image here, once you get white balanced up and you got your positioning pretty good here. I think you're in, you're doing real well there. So that's
good.
definitely a step up. So
Yep, that was the idea anyway.
yeah. Hi, Rhonda. How are you? Thanks for joining. And Doug, thanks for joining the stream today. We definitely appreciate you guys on. But you spent some money here, but you don't. This card is probably the card you need the most. But you probably could have went with a little more inexpensive camcorder than you did. So
probably, yeah. I was thinking if I was going to get a camcorder, though, I wanted to get a 4K one. So because if you just get a regular 1080p one,
yeah,
you're kind of living in a world of like maybe 5 or 6 year old technology. So.
Yeah, so I was going to show you the Canon camera that I really like. And again, it's a little more expensive. Let's see here. If I can find it. Can't remember the numbers.
Yeah, so this camera was about $800.
Yeah, so let's see if I can find it. Let me go to Canon.com. I don't know if I want to be in the Pro. It's not in the Pro section. Why is my internet loading so slow today? Let's see here.
Yeah, I think I'm a little slow today too.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. Not the XA series. The G. Well, maybe. Let me look for this. Now, I'll have to find it as we're talking here today, but if I find it, I'll bring it up. Consumer camcorders.
But yeah, there's just tons of cameras. I spent multiple days doing research on this stuff.
Right. Trying
to figure out which camera. Actually, even I looked at the SLRs too.
Yeah.
Just to see what was going on there. And I like the fact that this camera or a camcorder is really, it's kind of built for this kind of stuff. An SLR is kind of like, you're trying to make something that wasn't really designed to do that. It was designed to take pictures.
Yeah, so the camera, I really like this particular camera, the G6. I think I have a G40, and it's not 4K. The cameras I've got are not 4K, so maybe mine are a little bit older. This is $1,400. I didn't spend that much for mine.
You can spend a bunch of money.
You can spend a bunch of money. I think mine was around the same price you paid, around $800. But I like the G40s, and that's what I've got in the studio here for demo cameras and stuff. See if I can find.
Yeah, there's a lot of 1080p cameras out there that are like in the $200 range.
Yeah, those will work too.
I just don't know what the lens quality is on those, and that's what I was a little worried about.
Yeah, here's the G40, and probably this camera's not even available anymore. But this is the camera that I like a lot. This is the one I use here because I know I'm never going to go 4K in the studio.
Right.
And
I know, is that really true, Todd?
I don't think I'll ever go 4K in here because even right now we're pushing 720p to live stream on the internet. We might go 1080 sometime, but it's all a matter of bandwidth and then what other people can handle.
Right.
Because if I have to go to 4K, then I have to go like to 10 megs up, and then for someone to get a good quality to watch us, they need to have is high, or have good connection down. But by the way,
I think I'm like 250 megs down, and I think about 40 up right now on my connection.
Yeah. But, and the camera that I actually use here, and, we're talking to you guys I'm sorry for the audience that's listening here, but the camera that I'm using is, let's see if I can bring it up. The point tilt zoom camera. Let me wait for this to load. And by the way, we are, SpaceX is trying again today. So
what time is their launch?
3:30 is the
that's Eastern?
Yeah, 3:32 or something like that. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so the camera that I'm using is this one here. It's a point tilt zoom camera. And this is by NewTek. It's basically their branded camera. And
So you're using that for the image that we're seeing right now?
For the image when I go back to me primary. And this is a point tilt zoom camera. And for those of you that use Wirecast or some of the other live streaming applications, this puts out an NDI output. So you just need a LAN cable. You connect it. And here's the, are you familiar, Rob, with a network switch that is, it's different than a normal network switch, but this is a powered network switch where they actually provide power up the landline. Are you familiar with that? I think it's called.
I know a lot of the newer security cam platforms use that same technology.
Yeah, it's called
I can't remember what it's called either.
I want to say POS, but I don't think it's POS because that's a different acronym. But it's basically what this camera is that we're seeing right now. It's not plugged in. It just has a LAN.
It's getting its power
from
the data connection.
Yeah, right? From the data connection. Right. So it goes directly, and the video signal goes right over the LAN cable to my switch. And then Wirecast and a whole bunch of other live streaming applications now can select that camera because it uses what's called an NDI protocol. So I have I'm fibbing a little bit. I have an SDI cable hooked up to it as a backup because if something happens and I lose the LAN signal, I can reach over here and I can switch it to wired really quick. Right. But you don't have to. And since I've had the new studio up, I have not had to ever switch to SDI. So, but you can run this camera. Now, the only thing you can't do is you can't do switch change. This is a camera being programmed to move around and change positions.
Right.
So it won't snap on a LAN connection. It'll it'll move slowly. If you want it to snap, so it just pops to the next position, you have to have a power supply hooked to it.
Oh, okay.
So that's the big difference.
There's not enough power to power the other part. Right.
The servo will move, but it'll move slow. And again, when it's hooked up to the power supply, though, that thing will snap just as fast as you can almost see it to the next position. Right. But
and also to kind of explain what you're talking about here, also is that my new camera is HDMI to the Magwell.
Yep.
And that's an analog communication, right? So the Magwell is actually a converter that converts analog signal to digital signal is what is really going on. And that digital signal is what runs into my computer.
Rick saved me. It's called PoE, not POS. Power over Ethernet.
Power over E. That makes sense.
Yeah. Power over E. So, so I've got one camera here that's not PoE, that's still using SDI that I don't go to very often. But here's another thing too, that if you're thinking about doing live video and you don't have a camera today, if you're going to do more than one camera shot, buy the same camera for the second camera or third. Buy the same. Matter of fact, try to buy them at the same time. Right. Because if you, like, as an example, I have two cameras that color match really, really well and a third one that doesn't.
So when you switch cameras, it completely changes the experience.
Yeah. So, if you're going to buy, let's say you're going to do, and it's a big deep dig in your pocket, but let's say you're going to do a 3-camera shoot, buy all 3 cameras at the same time from the same vendor, and usually you'll get the same lot.
Right.
And
the same image.
And those cameras will be very, very close. They're still going to be a little different from camera to camera, but you're going to be much easier to get them dialed in color-wise. Because just watch right here. If I switch this, see how the color change?
Yeah.
And it's largely because of the angle. And this color is perfect. This color is, it's just different. It's a different view.
Well, and Stripes doesn't do that great on video anyway.
No. Yeah. So it might actually look a little blurry to people at times, but.
Right.
Yeah. So Greg,
depends on your resolution. So.
Yeah. NDI is the protocol, Greg, for the camera. And, it's their IP video protocol. And not every streaming application supports it. Blackmagic Design does not support NDI. They have their own. So you have to make sure that the ingest system, Wirecast or something like that, live stream, whatever ingest system you're using, you have to make sure it supports the NDI protocol to get video. Right. And what's cool about it is that I can have a camera anywhere here in the studio, and as long as it's NDI, I can easily I don't need a virtual cable anymore. So if I have a license limit on let's say, for example, I'm using Livestream and I have a license limit that I can only have 5 cameras, and I've got 10, I just can change it on the fly right in the software. I just pick it. There's no physical cable going to the back of the box. So it really allows you to have, and this is what Leo does on his system. He's got a system just like mine. He can only have 8 cameras hooked to it.
And we're talking about Leo Laporte.
Right. He can have 8 wired cameras. So he just basically has a physical switch. He doesn't use NDI at all. He uses that Canon camera that I showed you, that the G40 model. He uses this almost exclusively through his studio.
Right.
And he has all those converters. He actually runs a more expensive converter from Blackmagic Design, HDMI to SDI, and then runs the SDI signal to a Blackmagic Design switching board, and then he chooses which 8 signals or each pass goes to his TriCaster. So he's got like 60 cameras in the studio, and then he picks which 8 at any given time feed the TriCaster.
Right. But as far as, if you want to get more involved in video, I think my setup is probably more
right. Oh, yeah.
What you should look at doing, I think, is more similar. I mean, I think getting maybe a little less expensive camera might be something to look at too. But I think if I total up everything in here, right now I'm probably like $1,500-$1,600 for the upgrade, right, for everything. And that's not too bad. I certainly could have gotten a camera that was like maybe $300 or $400, and I would have been fine, So and that would have made it about just a little under $1,000 probably.
And I've got a cheap way. If someone, let's say you've got a dedicated bedroom you're going to use for your studio, and you want to do video, so you're thinking, how do I put lights up and not have these stands all over the place? So
you can hang them from the ceiling.
Well, there's a trick to it. There's a trick not to if you're renting, there's a trick not a way to destroy the roof that you can use. And what I did, and so let's say you're going to hang 3 lights, and you're going to buy 1x1 LED panels. So it's real simple. You got to find the stud in the rafter where your stud is, the closest to the farthest wall from where your cameras are going to be. You find that stud and where it's going to run. Now, hopefully it runs right to left and not, depending on where the crossbeam is, but you find those 2 studs. But then you go to Home Depot. And Home Depot has 1-inch steel water pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And you can buy those in 1-foot sections, 18-foot section, or 18-inch sections, and then you can buy them in 4 and 5-foot lengths. Right. So, and then you can buy an actual
like
a fitting that goes on there that actually is not designed to be.
No, it's done for plumbing, right?
It's done. This fitting is not done for plumbing. This fitting is done for people that are making a makeshift something that they would hold on to. So they've learned. So what
like
I did,
a railing or something.
Yeah, like a railing, right?
Right.
So I've taken that and I've flipped that on its head, and I put 2 lag bolts through that piece to attach it. So that way I'm only putting 2 holes in the roof on each side.
Right.
And then I make myself a C bracket that I hang my lights from across. And if you're renting, you get done renting and you pull those 2 lag bolts out, then all you got to do is patch 2 holes.
Right.
Or 4 holes, 4 tiny holes.
Those are small holes too.
Well, it depends how big a lag bolt you use.
Well, that's true.
That's true. And that's how I've done. Now, what I did here was I hung every 4 feet. I brought 18-inch water pipe down through, and then I course, you can buy like this real expensive multi-thousand dollar hanging stuff for lights. I bought a $32. It's basically used in construction as a channel to run wires through, and basically it kind of
Right.
protects the wires. And it's $32 for like a 15-foot length of this. And I bought that from Home Depot, and I can take pictures of it, but essentially I've got 30 feet of hanging lights here that probably cost me $200-$300 to hang.
Right. But the lights were
Oh,
more
no, the
expensive.
lights are more expensive.
Right.
You can get the Draco. It's a company that I like a lot for lights.
Yeah, that's the light that I have here.
You watch them for sales. They have sales all the time, and usually around Christmas time or during certain times of the year, get on their mailing list, and they'll have sales. Like I bought these 1x1s, which are normally $2.99. I got them
Yep.
for like $135 on sale, and I bought like 6 of them because they were so cheap. And I had some in boxes I didn't need, so I just used what I had.
Hmm.
And the key is you don't have to buy it all at once. And you just little by little, you look for the deals. And then, because when they run a deal, what they've been selling on sales, the stuff you bought right now is the desktop lights.
I got 3 lights for like $250 with the tripods and everything. So I've got three tripods with 3 different lights. So, but they're
Yeah.
not big lights. They're like maybe 10 inches wide by 6 inches tall. So,
Yeah.
but they have a variable intensity. I can adjust the color of the lights. They're really low power lights, and they're pretty cool. And actually, they also support a battery pack too, so you
Right.
could use them mobily as well if you wanted.
And when I was in Hawaii, I had limited space, and I was in a bedroom, so I really didn't want to trip over these things all the time. And those
Right.
little tripods. So, if you have a partner or a wife and you're in a bedroom and you're converting a bedroom, you're going to need some, how should I say it? You're going to have to negotiate to hang
How
these.
you're going to do this,
You're
right?
going to negotiate to hang these lights. So for me, the negotiation was I hung the lights, and there was still 6 to 9 inches above my head. I could walk through and not hit the lights with my head.
Right.
And even though they were hanging, that was
Probably couldn't do that with
you could walk under my lights here. Depends
Could I?
on how high
Okay.
your ceilings are. Yeah, you would still not whack your head. At least now in the old studio, no, you'd have banged your head. But here, I think you can still walk under the lights. I'd have to measure it. But yeah, so that's so again, it's because what happens then is when you go to video, light stand, camera,
Oh, yeah.
and all of a sudden, what's in front of you is getting kind of busy, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah, I've got 4 tripods in front of me.
You're right. So it gets busy. So at some point, you don't have to worry about it, but you're seeing, all of a sudden your partner's like, this looks like, this is getting too busy. Let's clean this up.
Right.
So,
There's a lot of wires.
and you get used to doing the wire management. So,
Right.
oh yeah, you want to see wires. You ought to see, there's a wall right over here that all the cables come in to the TriCaster and the
Right.
audio. So there's a bundle for all the students is about 4 inches around, and as I've added cables, I snip the spot tie and I re-spot tie some more. That's why I'm worried about the hung ceiling here. I'm thinking, how much weight do I have up there in cables?
Well, aren't those ceiling tiles up there? I mean,
They are. They're ceiling tiles. Yeah, they're ceiling tiles.
Ceiling
So,
tile.
I'm not,
Okay.
I'm joking because it's all distributed, but I've got, and it's land cable largely. It's not like it's, but
Right.
I do have audio cables run too, to the different studios. So
Mhm.
you don't have to worry about that at home. But, here's the mistake a lot of people make too. Well, I think I need a 12-foot cable, and you really need it in 8.
Right.
And then you got 4 feet of loop that you got to
just
deal
laying
with.
around.
Right,
Yeah. I have
yeah.
that problem all over the place.
So, I take, so I this studio, what I did is I had string. And I actually took string and run string to length. And I said, okay, I need a 10-foot here, and I need a 12-foot there, and I need an 8-foot there. So I didn't end up with all this loop.
Right.
And
But I do think that more and more people need to think about this. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I think as we are moving into a new online communications era, you start thinking about all the companies that have started to announce that their workers are going to be home-based. And it seems like an explosion of podcasters, an explosion of video creators, all this stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I did what I did here, is because I could see this trend moving, and I wanted to be, doing the best I could here, on the video side.
yeah, and if I had to rebuild this studio again,
Right.
I started building this 10 years ago and have progressed with equipment. And I just look to the right of me, and I'm looking at the big bottom, I'm looking at the EQ, I'm looking at my compressor. All three of those boxes could be gone. That's all can be done digitally now, just as
Right.
well as electrically.
Well, and I wanted to ask you too. I mean, if you had it to do over again, would you even get a TriCast?
Nope.
You just would
Nope.
go with like a Wirecast and some Blackmagic
I-
boxes, and
I
That's
might
about it.
just use OBS.
Right.
Nope, I wouldn't. If that TriCaster dies, I'll probably build a super heavy duty PC that's like a gamer machine, and then that's what will replace it. And I'll run OBS.
yeah, because you also have a TriCaster Mini too.
I have a mini, yeah, and it's actually in the office in Columbus. We were going to set up a
Oh,
studio
is it?
there.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I've got it down there.
So you're actually using it. Right.
Not right now. It's in the case.
Oh, okay.
But I could use them, but the mini's $10,000, Rob.
I know those are expensive.
So
They're really cool because they're kind
Yeah.
of portable. But
they're portable.
yeah, because didn't you bring that to CES? and
Yeah.
those events? Yeah.
But I could also do live stream. Here's what live stream comes on now.
Yeah.
It comes on a USB stick, folks. This
Right.
is live. This is literally live
Your
stream.
studio in a box. Right
It's
there.
right there on a stick.
Right.
That's it.
Studio on a stick.
Now they've got it coded, so I have to load this I have to have this inserted on the machine that I have that authenticates the license. But that's live stream right there in a stick. But you just have to have a good PC that will run. That's the only difference. You're not running this on a $299 Kmart special Windows PC.
Right.
You're going to
You
need a
gotta
decent
Get something
machine.
that has the capture cards that are really good,
Well, you run what you're running.
or video cards. Something like that.
You-
I mean, you have to have a good computer.
Yeah, you got to have a decent computer because video has some overhead. Now, if you're just doing one camera, you use OBS and you don't need anything else.
Right.
OBS, open source. What they've done with OBS is incredible.
Right.
Wirecast. They've
And
got
just do like what I'm doing with a capture card, like from Magwell.
Yeah.
There's other capture cards out there that are cheaper than the Magwell. The question that I had about them was their performance.
Mm.
That was always the question. I read a lot of
If
reviews.
you find some cheaper ones, Rob, send me the links because I'm always like looking to save money. I don't want to spend $400 or $300 with
that's-
Magwell again.
I mean, that's my point. Is that most of the other ones out there are cheap for a reason. They don't perform very well, and the video image isn't that great.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of them are built for gamers
Mm,
who want to live stream their Xbox or their Sony PlayStation
right.
gameplays. So that's what you'll find is that most of these little capture cards are really, really designed for that.
If you really want to, what's going on? Who has really caused the industry to really change with OBS and everything else? Just start Googling Twitch video setups for gamers.
Right. Right.
If you do that, you're in maybe $1,000 in year.
Right.
And you are like, you've got everything you need, and they've got little switchers that you can pre-program It's
Yep.
a little bit geeky still, but it looks sexy. It's not like this big, huge switcher here. It's just a fingerprint
Well-
thing that you can change.
Well, then Blackmagic has one too. I saw that it's like this little portable thing that it's like this little screen,
Yeah.
and it has like a small 6x4 kind of controller pad
Yeah.
that has buttons on it.
And it takes HDMI inputs. I think it's got a 4-camera switcher on it. I think it's
Right.
so.
Yeah, it supports up to 4 cameras.
Yeah, Mike Dell was looking at that. He was thinking about buying one. I almost bought one just.
And it's not that expensive.
No,
I hear.
I think it's $400.
$400.
Yeah,
or something.
$400.
Right. Yeah.
So,
But it's sold out.
Oh, is it? I wouldn't be surprised that it's sold out.
Completely sold out right now.
Yeah.
And then that's the other point too. Is, I mean, a lot of these capture cards and a lot of the webcams, many of the lower cost camcorders are basically sold out, and all because so many people are upgrading,
Right.
or they're wanting to do like what I wanted to do here.
Yeah.
So it's a hot thing right now.
So people often ask me, how do I do what we're doing here?
Right. You don't want to do what we're doing here.
Well, so just so people, this is not that hard.
Right.
From a cost, well, it's not necessarily small from a cost standpoint, but if you want to do what I do, what Rob is on is a Mac Mini. He could be on, I ran this for years on a $300 budget PC that was tiny, no power. It would run Skype. That's what it ran. It was dedicated running Skype. But I have Rob coming in on a dedicated computer, and I come out of that box with the HDMI signal. I run it into a box that, again, it's an NDI box. It's called a Spark. It's from NewTek. Not necessarily inexpensive, but again, there's 25 different ways to hook this up. That HDMI signal gets picked up, and the TriCaster can see the HDMI from the computer. There's a loop HDMI, and I loop that right back into the monitor. So basically, it's an HDMI out into that box, and I could actually run the audio and everything. I wouldn't have to run any wires, but I've just learned over the years that it's better to have a hardwired audio connection. And I do, because the new Mac Minis only have a single plug, I run a little USB-C. It's basically a mic in, headphones out, and I connect 2 cables to it, and I run it through my Mix Minus. So, but you can with the Rodecaster. You could run it on the same PC that you're doing your live stream on too. So
right. And I think your setup there is complicated, just like what you're saying, compared to what you can do with like a Rodecaster. It's a perfect example of what's possible over there. Now that's just audio over there, so you
still have to have a video flow, right? But you could do a video flow. And believe it or not, the biggest trick in doing video with someone on Skype and doing live is make sure that the latency looks decent. So when you're moving your lips and someone's watching the playback, that is relatively synced up. So what I have to do with the processed video, the recorded video that comes from this show, is I have to move the audio 2 microseconds to the right in order for the lip to be matched. So in post and edit, I just click it 2 microseconds, and then everything is relatively close. Sometimes if you guys watch near the end of the show, if you're watching the show on newmediashow.com, you click out to like an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes. Sometimes that gap gets bigger.
Right.
So it's doing.
So how is my latency doing?
Your latency it's great. I'm
okay.
I'm watching you on a repeat monitor in front of me, and it looks good. So, but again, you can geek out here and spend a lot of money, but for those of you that want to do live stream, your webcam and StreamYard is all you need.
Right. And then
Free.
It's just choosing what kind of webcam or camera or SLR or whatever that you want to use.
If you've got a Mac, the camera's built in. Use the.
That's true.
You
can use the built-in camera, right?
Yeah. And if you have many PCs have a built-in camera too. And sometimes what you have to do is if you're on a laptop is prop put 4 or 5 books underneath your laptop, you get it up high enough so it's, it doesn't look like it's looking up your chin.
Right.
So you don't have to spend this money. It's not needed.
It just depends what kind of quality you want to get.
Here's the end. Here's something you always can remember, ladies and gentlemen. They will forgive you for the audio. They will forgive you for the video. They will not forgive you for the audio.
Right.
It can look horrible.
Right.
But it's got to sound good.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of this.
Right.
And I got to understand, I invested a huge amount of money into this because that's what you had to do when I started. There was no other way. There wasn't Magwell cards years ago.
Yeah, it's the same with me in the early days of when I was doing my radio show and I built my home studio. I spent like $20,000 on my studio,
right?
Because the tools now are so much better and so much cheaper.
Guys that are on Twitch using OBS and they laugh at people like me that's using a TriCaster because, their pocketbook is much thicker.
Well, yeah, it's true.
It's much thicker, but.
Yeah, I didn't know, I was using condenser microphones. I had three condenser microphones in my studio when I was doing my radio show and had sound paneling on the wall and all sorts of stuff. And each one of those microphones were like $700 each. So it was really crazy expensive. If I think about it now.
That Blue Mic mouse I used for years was $1,300.
Right.
And these are not necessarily inexpensive, but this is the first dynamic mic that I have ever found that I love.
Right. And these are about $400.
Right. So for me, and I've got a Heil PR40. It's in a box in the closet. For my voice, I don't like the Heil PR40. It doesn't sound good on my voice.
Right.
Some people love the Heil PR40. It's a great mic, but it just doesn't sound good with me.
Well, Todd, we haven't talked too much about podcasting.
No, we've been geeking out here.
But this is the new media show.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's be clear. It's not the podcast show.
So I do have to tweet my own horn a little bit. I got a segment in Columbus CEO.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a really, really good article, Todd. That really run down a lot of the past and things like that.
I see that he talked to you too, Rob. I didn't know he talked to you. Yeah, so Rob got a mention, and Dan Franks got a mention in the article. You're basically talking about me, and I appreciate you guys talking with the reporter. But I sit down with him for about an hour and a half a couple of months ago, and other team members did, and that's a self-portrait. I shot that myself here in the studio on a timer. So
it's a good shot. It's a good shot.
Yeah, so I could have smiled a little more, couldn't have I?
Kind of. Well, you're a serious podcaster, Todd. So, but it does show your setup there, and that board that you have for the TriCaster is kind of like what like a TV studio would have.
That's right. The one-man show. So it did take a pretty good. I think it's a pretty good view. So anyway, I think it was a good piece. There was a couple of things in there that they got a little bit wrong, but it's going to happen in anything that you talk about. I did not work with Boeing. I put that out as a disclosure because I kind of had a couple of my Navy buddies send me a email saying, "You never worked with Boeing." Well, I worked with Boeing tech reps, but I actually worked primarily in Waco with L3 Communications. So, so that was kind of something that got wrong. And Lockheed Martin, the only reason that they said Lockheed Martin was because of the P3. And again, I only worked with Lockheed Martin tech reps.
Right.
I never worked with those folks directly. So let's just go on the record here for my Navy buddies. And I wasn't stationed in Waco. I was TAD to Waco. So that, it's all semantics. But, some of my Navy buddies were like, "Hey, you got it wrong."
That's what I say. Get the facts right.
Right. But otherwise, I think it was pretty good. But it does talk about the story about how Blueberry was formed and that other stuff. So if you get a chance, give it a read. Give you some insight.
And it talked about. I mean, when Todd and I met too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was back when you started all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just doing a show just like you were back then.
And for those of you who don't know, Rob was. You guys listened to the show for a while. In 2005, Rob was part of the Tech Podcast Network, and Rob actually had a continuous loop stream of Tech Podcast content back when it wasn't cool to, you think about it, Rob, we were doing shit people are still thinking about trying to do today, and we were doing it in 2005. And
right. Well, it's because I had my own server infrastructure.
Right.
I had co-located servers in two different co-location facilities, hosting podcasts and doing live shows and streaming on real and Windows Media servers.
Yeah.
So it was just a different time, and it's not like, and Todd, you'll understand this. It's not like you could go to a Libsyn and create an account.
No,
it didn't exist back then.
Didn't exist.
Right.
So one of my Navy buddies is on the stream today. He said Boeing LOL, and it's an internal between him and I. It's an internal joke,
right.
Because, well, I'll let everybody in on it. The Navy P3 has been by Lockheed, has been replaced by the Boeing, what they're terming the P8. And no, I have had no relationship with Boeing, but I know Greg, who is on the live stream, he is working in junction with stuff that Boeing's being done. So
gotcha.
That's why he's laughing online. So
yeah.
Oh, it's funny. But
I think we're showing our age here, Todd.
Oh, the hell with them if they
That's
don't.
right. They can't take a joke, right?
But the only thing I felt bad about this article is that it really didn't get as much into my team as I wish it would have. I talked a lot about my team, in the interview, and that I think that's the only thing that I kind of wish they'd have talked a little bit more about, because it is obviously, it was a CEO type of interview, but no one's successful without their team. So I think that's
right.
The main thing. Anyway, so let's talk again. Okay, we'll go to the news now that I'm done
that's right.
punching my own horn.
The show's
here.
Almost over.
So I saw this come up in Pod News. I chuckled a little bit because I just assume people know this already. California listens to podcasts more than any other U.S. state. Yep, have been for years.
Yeah,
that's almost every show has more listeners in California than any. California just listens to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of people there. It's like was it the fifth largest economy in the world, or something like that?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I thought everyone knew that already, but it's news. So California listens to more podcasts than any other U.S. state. Stitcher, which has posted a look back at the last 10 years of podcasting. Among the piece of data, 2/3 of podcasts are streamed rather than download. Okay, they're streamed because Stitcher streams.
Right. Yeah. And then it also said here the state of Washington, for example, ranks number 4 in listening hours, despite it being number 13th in the highest population. So the state of Washington is listening to a lot of podcasts.
And something even more concerning was, it said PEX, and I don't know what this company does, a service that's scanning podcasts for music. What are they doing? Reporting that to rights holders? Has revealed that 17% of podcasts contain at least 10 seconds of music of all types, they add.
Right. 2/3 of all podcasts are streamed rather than downloaded. Yeah.
Okay. On Stitcher, not normally.
Well, that's just click play, what it is.
Okay, still not normally.
Yeah, because Stitcher went pass through long time ago.
Yeah, but they still have a streaming component, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's all progressive download.
Can you subscribe to? I guess you can subscribe to a show in Stitcher, can't you? Pre-download.
I don't remember if they still have that feature or not.
Some podcast apps are removing the subscribe function.
Yeah. Well, I think there was an article that came out this past week too, talking about, or did we talk about it on Wednesday about what the future of podcasting is? And then what one of those was the removal of the subscription component. Yeah,
So I'm kind of a follower of Seeking Alpha. And the reason is I've made a lot of money over the years by watching for stuff that Seeking Alpha talks about. And
Seeking Alpha, who's Seeking?
Seeking Alpha is a website that basically does investor. They're kind of like the best way. So first, a disclosure. If you are investing from advice from Seeking Alpha, I am not telling you to do that.
Okay. So you're not an investment advisor here.
I'm not an investment advisor by getting tips off of Seeking Alpha. But I have made some good money from advice from Seeking Alpha. As a matter of fact, Seeking Alpha was one of the stories that broke some of the stories about what was going on with Libsyn when they were having their China debacle. Did I say that right? No. And well, the China issue, the China reverse merger that went sideways, and people went, someone supposedly in China went missing or whatever. Right. So the Seeking Alpha stuff was the one that was on the leading edge of some of that reporting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the Libsyn CEO probably doesn't like Seeking Alpha so much. And then there's lots of stories, and they have a tendency to be a little, they push the boundaries of, they do a lot of speculation.
Yes.
Again, I'm not an investment advisor, but I'm speaking. So Seeking Alpha says, an investor writing for Seeking Alpha claims that Spotify is overvalued and its foray into podcasting is not a surefire success.
Interesting.
They're spending a lot of money, Rob.
Yeah, they are.
They're spending a pile of $1 million bills.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was also a bunch of articles that came out this past week talking about the Joe Rogan deal, that they basically, Joe Rogan got ripped off or something. It's all over the map. People are talking about how his value is much more than what he got out of the deal.
Right.
So I heard that also, and that Spotify stock rose like 8% or 9% on the announcement, which was like almost $1 billion or something like that. And that Spotify got their money back almost instantaneously. I don't know if the stock price going up gives Spotify any money.
That's all magic money.
Right. So I mean, it's a perceptional thing, but it's not really real.
But I have, again, from time to time, something Seeking Alpha says that catches my eye, and I go, and I have shorted stock before based upon stuff that came out of Seeking Alpha.
Right.
And I've done some long-term hold positions on stuff from them and done okay. But again, I'm not an investment advisor. And
don't sue me.
When you have that, hear that on television, do you invest in this because because it's going to risk, you could lose all your money, but you can lose all your money from any investment that comes from any investment platform that makes any sorts of advice.
Okay, Todd, I think it's safe to say you've covered yourself here.
And by the way, Ken, welcome to the live stream. But I think it's just like anything else, but it makes you go, when somebody like Seeking Alpha says this. And hey, on a more positive note, the Infinite Dial Canada 2020 is going to be announced on June 4th. So, matter of fact, June 4th is quite a special day. And I am taking, if you're looking to see if, send me a nice present or something on June 4th, I'm a tech head, so a MacBook Pro, all kinds of stuff would be, you can definitely keep me in your wish list for June 4th. But June 4th is, my birthday's on June 4th, sorry. The Infinite Dial 2020 we announced in a free webinar. It'll give a new figure for Canadian podcast consumption. So we'll see what happens there. What else? A lot of stuff.
Well, there's more stuff in that Stitcher podcast report.
Oh, really?
Too, it talks about episodes are trending shorter, is what they're saying in this. The average podcast length has shortened by 2.4 minutes.
Oh,
whoopee doo!
Give me that number next month.
2013.
Oh, since 2013.
Right. That's a strong trend line down, isn't it?
Hold on. Podcasts have gotten shorter by 2 minutes and 30 seconds since when?
2.4 minutes.
2.4 minutes.
4 minutes, which is almost 2.5 minutes since 2013. And that's a significant trend line.
Why is that a reportable number?
I guess it's a number, right?
Okay, it's a number. So every podcaster, just go 3 minutes longer for the next 3 months, and we'll screw that logarithm up.
So I was thinking, stick it to the man on that one.
It reminded me of something I read the other day. What was it? I know what it was. So this put this into perspective.
Right.
It's being reported that the average person has 3 partners in their lifetime. Okay. That's the average. So let's think about that for a second to get to 3.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll let you guys use your own perception here. The average is 3. So
right.
To get to 3, there must be a lot that it's 0.
Right.
Because in my 20s, I knew guys that were killing it. I'll just say that. So,
right. There's a lot of dead air is what you're saying, Todd.
Right? So the average is 3. 3. Right. It's just, okay, so,
Well, it depends on what they classify a partner as, right?
It's all in the definition. Yeah, it's all in the definition.
Right.
Eileen,
those brief encounters don't count, Todd.
Okay, so anyway, Eileen says you should hear all the disclaimers at the end of the Susie Orman's podcast.
or the Jim Cramer show too.
Oh, really?
It's like 2 letter size scrolling that happens on the screen.
Yeah, Greg says question is partners for what? LOL.
Yes.
Now this is an interesting one. We'll move on here.
What's the typical number of podcast hosts the podcast has over the lifespan of a podcast or podcaster? Like, is it 2 co-hosts? Is it 3 co-hosts?
Well, I know one that went from 2 to 1 here recently because they weren't getting enough money or something.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be
that has resolved itself.
Touchy area out there these days. Right.
And by the way, please, if you're having a dispute with your host, make sure you have all the passwords.
Don't let them own the domain name and you own the publishing name either, right?
Because they're going to be calling folks like Gordon and hiring him for his actual legal services.
Right.
Because we just ran into it here recently. It was bad. Almost an extinction event for a show, So,
yeah, it can be. I've seen it happen before.
Yeah, me too. So Podimo, Podimo.
Yeah, I've been hearing about them this week.
And I'm like, they got $16.5 million, a subscription-based podcast service. 16.5.
Wow.
Have someone not learned from the issue going on with another company that just got like another $100 million and they can't make it work?
Right.
16.5. There's just not that many podcasts that can handle this. If we went subscription based, Rob, no one would. We'd be broke. No one would listen. We're already broke. Yeah, no one would listen to us, right?
I'm not going to pay 5 cents for to listen to this show. No.
I always tell my audience if the show is worth 6.7 cents, and based on the number of shows I do a month, that's worth $2. $2 a month. Can you handle 6.7 cents a show? And people ignore me. So I'm not even worth 6 cents on my other show.
Wow. And what does that say?
Well, it says that people like free podcasts.
Right.
Yeah, and I got a sponsor, and they say you're getting money enough. I don't need to send you any more cash.
Right.
And that's the truth. Yeah. But interesting stat out of Deezer. Deezer said podcasts are being used to fight loneliness. That's interesting.
I think that's always been the case. I think from the very early days of this medium, I think that's the case.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that don't have, a significant other or people in their lives, or they're kind of lonely or whatever, they can certainly, get a friend in a podcast. That's for sure.
Gordon says, and a podcaster prenup. Yes. If you're going to do a show and you're new and listening to this, you need a podcaster prenup with your host. Please listen to us. If you don't have a prenup already and you're already together, and you're doing fine, you need to do a prenup or an agreement today. You need to put that down on a piece of paper.
Right.
Because you're friends now, but what happens if you don't become friends anymore?
Right. One other thing from the Stitcher report here about bouncing back from COVID, that while listening decreased during the weekday commuting hours, they're seeing the second half of April begin to show a return to pre-pandemic levels, is what they say. So, yeah. Have you looked at your numbers, Todd, lately as it started to go up again?
Haven't looked. Remember, we were even. We never really. Yeah, right. I haven't looked. I need to look. Matter of fact, it's we'll get the June numbers here. I'll do a try to do deep dive on Tuesday. I can actually do it on Monday because Monday's the 1st, so I can take a look. Maybe we talk about it on Wednesday, where we're, at least where we're at and how May looked. So
yeah. I also thought it was interesting too. From that same Stitcher study, it talked about miniseries podcasts grew from about 4 in 2010 up to 52,000 in 10 years.
Of course.
Like a miniseries series would be like a serial or that type of thing where it had a limited run.
So, how many? Yeah. From 4 to 52,000?
Yeah. That's what this.
You sure that wasn't people that accidentally.
Well, it's like true crime stuff. It's like all that type of, kind of storytelling stuff. That's, I think what it really is kind of season.
Are we sure that wasn't seasons where someone set seasons up by mistake and pod faded?
Well, 52,000 is what?
That's a big number.
It's a big number, but if you look at the total number of podcasts, it's not a big number.
Oh, that's true.
So, that's probably true crime and drama and that kind of. I can see that many shows in those genres right now. Yeah. It's been a popular genre the whole. But Todd, I think you're right with your observation, though. I think when Apple made the change to add kind of series level shows and breaking those out, it created a perceptional opportunity for content creators to do something different.
This show accidentally went to season 9,998 or something for like one episode.
Right. Gone wild.
That was because of a mouse click and a roll of the button here, and I accidentally incremented us to. That was a design flaw in PowerPress that we fixed.
Oh.
Yeah, too easy to tab over, then accidentally spin the wheel and end up with a weird number. So, speaking of which, Monday, for those of you that use PowerPress, we really want to hear your feedback. Big our biggest update in years is Monday.
Really?
Yeah, UI UX in a sign of
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
sign of things to come, and what you see on PowerPress today is what you'll see on the Blueberry dashboard in the future. So,
Well, similar work is being done over at Libsyn as well.
man, it takes a while. That UIX stuff takes
Well, there's a lot of stuff to
a
consider.
lot of stuff to consider. Yeah. So,
Right. What's the impact on workflow? Are you going to get people mad at you? It's kind of like what happens, and I think we can all appreciate it when you like shopping at a certain grocery store and the grocery store rearranges all the shelves. It's like, where is the cereal aisle? I can't find it anymore.
And you're stomping around, going back four or five times, pissed off. Well,
right.
We'll know Tuesday how it went. We'll know Tuesday, and probably it's kind of funny because we're touting this 8.3, and I said, well, by Tuesday they're probably in 8.3.1. By Wednesday, 8.3.2.
Well, I think both of us are really focusing on this concept of simplifying,
making
it easier for podcasters to do what they do, get in and get out faster.
Because when we have to teach people how to left click, Rob.
Well, we've been doing that for a long time, Todd. Well, it depends on if they're on a Mac or a PC on that conversation.
Oh, that's true too.
Right,
by the way, you know what these two fingers do on the Mac? Yeah.
Right.
So, you guys will not believe this. Those of you listening to it, this little. For those of you listening, this little wheel on your mouse. For those of you that have a wheel on your mouse,
doesn't work on a Mac.
It does, absolutely.
Does it work?
That wheel works on a mouse, absolutely. It does. It's just backwards from if you go from a PC. No, it's true. If you're in a PC, when you push down, the screen goes up, and on a PC, it's the opposite. Just so you know. But do you know that there are people that don't know that you can actually scroll down on a web page?
Really?
Yeah, I'd be like,
kidding.
No,
I haven't encountered any of those folks yet.
And you say, they say, well, where's the button? Well, scroll down. What do you mean scroll down? And you're like, just scroll down. Take your wheel on your mouse and scroll. Wow!
Wow, there's more down there?
No, this is it. It's fact.
That's the reason above the fold, right? So important.
Some people only see above the fold ever.
And that's kind of a newspaper or magazine term, right?
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah.
But it's very applicable. It's like, once you load a web page, what's the visible area of the web page that you see right away?
Yeah.
And like Todd just said, a lot of people don't even realize that there's a scroll bar on the right of your browser.
That's the above the fold for Blueberry.
Right.
And then let me go to Libsyn, just so we're fair. Seeing that I'm controlling the screen.
Yes, you are.
And there's Libsyn above the fold. So.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it's what before you can scroll an inch, what you see. Yeah.
Right. And I've always had the opinion of whatever you see above the fold needs to solve 4 questions that a visitor has. Right. Why they went there to begin with, right?
Because
do they want to do this or do that?
And this is for podcasters too. And here's a good topic.
Right.
You go to your website as you as a podcaster, and I'm just going to go to the New Media Show.
Right.
And you can do this if you're listening to us later, so that you understand what above the fold is here, so that you can play along.
Yeah, and I used to build websites in the early days of my work in the internet too. So I designed and built websites for companies. So that's what I used to do a long time ago.
So when you come to New Media Show, what do you get to see above the fold? You get to see subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Android, and Stitcher. Right there in the right-hand column.
Getting to the content is the priority on this page.
And if you look at your web stats, not your podcast stats, and everyone should be running web stats on their websites if they have their own website. And you need to look at those every couple of weeks to see what your bounce rate is. Because if you have people leaving your homepage seconds after they're arriving, you have failed.
Right.
You have failed to capture their attention.
Well, why did they go there to begin with? And if they left right away,
Right.
that tells you something, right?
It tells them that they have not found
What they were looking
what they were looking for. And
right, because if they did, they would either click on something or they would progress.
there are literally tens of thousands of podcast websites I go to where I don't know that they're a podcaster when I land on their webpage. I can't see how to subscribe to their show. There's no evidence whatsoever that it's so if you're losing 85 to 90% of the traffic that's coming to your web, people say websites don't work. They don't work for people that don't pay attention to what they've done.
It's a self-fulfilling situation,
Right. And if I can't, you have to think as a listener. And I follow the same principle on. So you guys are going to see a trend here. Those of you who are watching Geek News Central, what do you see? Same thing. Subscribe to the show right there. I don't have an ad running in the sidebar.
The upper
I do,
right.
but so here's the website that I have. Let's go to. Come on, load up. Same thing. Podcast Insiders, the Blueberry thing, right there it's you got to give them the opportunity to subscribe. 99% of them won't, but all you need is 1% or half of 1% or 0.2% to subscribe.
Right.
And on Geek News Central, about 0.2% click subscribe.
And keywords at the top of the page in what's called H1 header tag areas, right, which are what Google looks at for index too. So you need to think about how you're titling things on that homepage.
That's
too,
right.
Or subsequent page too. Maybe it's more important, Todd. I don't know if you've looked at your stats. Are fewer and fewer people going to homepages, or are they going?
No, they're going to the page that the content is on.
Right, which is usually deep in the website.
Right. So, an example, I did a whole discussion on Section 230. I talked about the EFF and what Section 230 really means for the people that don't understand it. And if you don't know what Section 230 is, it's a lot of the stuff that's been going on politically about Twitter and the president and that stuff. So I talked about Section 230 and what protection Section 230 gives companies like Blueberry and Libsyn and others, allows us to run business and not be sued because we're not editors. So I talked about Section 230. So what do I want? I titled my show Section 230. That was the episode title. And people searching for Section 230 will find this information and I'll get lots of views on that because my page is ranked good in Google to begin with. So
yeah, and that top green text is considered H1.
It's an H1.
Right. Text, and that's what Google primarily looks at.
And it looks at the rest of the stuff that's in there to make sure you're not. But still, it really boils down to the ability for you to get seen by that 800. I've said this 5 million times. You record for your audience, you write for Google. So
right. And more, you're recording for Google too. But that's changing as well.
So again, if you have a website, and some of you don't care, but those of you that do, think about this stuff when you're writing your show notes.
Mm-hmm.
And the first paragraph of your show notes should cover your primary topic that you're trying to track traffic to. So I said here's how I wrote up tonight. I break down Section 230 of the CDA, which I'm sure half the planet is going to go crazy over today as they have no clue what it is. So, I just kind of, put in there a natural speaking language about Section 230 and let me see if it's ranking on it all on Google if I made the list. So let me do Section 230 pod. Ari Stitcher has a show that's over there. That's number 1, number 2, number 3. Where am I? Do I fall into this? I don't, because so many people are talking about Tech Dirt and Washington Post. They're all dominating it.
Yeah.
So, that one I may not win.
Well, that one's a pretty recent episode, too.
But it still will should track pretty quickly. And I just did Section 230 podcast. So, and I should have named it Section 230 podcast in the episode title. But anyway, ultimately you have winners and losers. Not every episode is going to be a winner to Google.
So this Section 230, Todd, is it a kind of something for the podcasting world to be concerned about?
If you have no idea what Section 230 is, the EFF has a fantastic 5 to 10 minute read on Section 230.
Right.
And I should tell you to go over there and read it. And also, I want you to understand, political wise, both right and left want changes to Section 230. Even the new presidential candidate wants changes to Section 230. And here in a nutshell is what Section 230 does. Blueberry, Libsyn, we are protected from someone coming in. Now, let me preface this. I'm still responsible for removing child porn. I'm still responsible for taking down hate speech. That's part of my terms of service anyway. So I'm going to remove you for that type of stuff. And I have my terms of service, but there's some stuff under the CDA which I'm responsible for removing to the best of my ability.
Right.
But if you come on, you publish an episode and you disparage, let's say you're going to do libel against someone.
Right.
And this is a little bit tied into safe harbors, but really what it really means is since you're publishing onto my platform, I'm a platform, I'm not a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so essentially I'm protected under CDA. And again, I'm not a lawyer. Gordon probably goes into this much better, but Blueberry as a corporation is protected from stuff that comes onto our platform as long as we do not editorialize or flag it.
Right.
Because newspapers are not protected under Section 230. Newspapers are all about written stories. They are not protected under Section 230s, but Twitter, Facebook, us, others. This all started way back when there was like bulletin boards and forums. And so Twitter today is a modern forum. So I will contend, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it, by Facebook and by Twitter and by other entities flagging content, they have, in essence, potentially, and I'm not a lawyer, broken their Section 230 protection. And that's been push for years now.
Right.
So here's what can happen. Let's say Section 230 is abolished by Congress.
Well, it's also a copyright issue too, isn't it? To some degree?
I can't address that because I don't know. Right. But if let's say Section 230 is abolished by Congress. Now, the president's actions didn't abolish Section 230. They just told the DOJ to go look and see if someone is violating Section 230 provisions under the current law. So if, let's say Section 230 is abolished, then what Twitter should probably do is cancel the president's account. Because then they can be liable and someone could sue Twitter for what anyone says.
Or what the president says, right?
Exactly. They would lose protection and they'd be liable for anything anyone said on their platform.
Right.
They and the publisher could be sued. Now, you can still get sued. People can still sue you no matter what. But Section 230 does give you a certain amount of protection here. And so losing Section 230 to me is very scary. As a business owner, to lose Section 230 protection is very, very scary to me. But here's the problem. Can't have it both ways. So you're
Right.
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
And as Facebook is facing this with the stuff that they've done, they take stuff down from community guidelines. They classify it under community guidelines. So it's a little bit
They
of a
can get in trouble for taking it down, or they can get in trouble for leaving it up. Right? Is that what it sets up?
Yeah. Well, if you leave it up, actually Facebook is more protected by leaving it up. Now, if it still goes against hate speech, and they've tried to find their way around this a little bit, and they're skirting.
The terms of service must come into play here.
The terms of service can come into play, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, you built a platform based on this open ecosphere of people being able to share their opinions and share their First Amendment rights. And again, what you say, you can say anything you want, but you can be sued into oblivion because of it.
Well, I mean, a lot of these social platforms have been aggressively gone after by Congress and the Senate over the last year about being platforms for false information. There's investigations about external actors putting up false information, and
so it's ugly.
It's a difficult situation.
It's a bowl of spaghetti, is what it is.
And I think podcasting has probably been probably one of the few mediums that has kind of avoided some of this stuff.
And the reason is it's not in your face, it's in your ear. And when someone hears something in their ear they don't like, they report it, and then we go look at it. And if it violates terms of service, we take it down. It's said and done. It's not like it's written word out there, high profile written word.
Right.
So again, and again, it can get real political. That discussion can get people can become very decisive. So I'm just telling you, if you're pissed off right now about the executive order or whatever, please go read the EFF's Section 230 write-up. Just do EFF Section 230 and read their document, and it'll kind of explain the history and where it's coming from, and you make up your own mind. But I like Section 230 as a business owner because someone still can sue me, but I can almost defer that, say, hey, Johnny said that, or Tawny, or Tammy, or Susie, or whoever. Right. That's their content. I don't do, and it's part of safe harbors too. I don't do.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was talking about the whole copyright part.
Yeah. Right. So I'm not an editor.
Just from being liable for publishing copyrighted material.
Yeah. So anyway, we talked about, on your websites, make sure that you're doing stuff to get people to be able to find your content, subscribe to it when they land on your webpage, and they're there for 3 seconds, and maybe they have that trigger and they say, oh man, this man or woman or whoever, this company has a podcast. Let's check it out. And if you get 0.2% that click on subscribe, you multiply that over days and months, and it's a big deal. And here's another thing. You're not going to keep all those that subscribe. They're going to listen to one episode. They're going to say, this sucks. And they're gone. So that's why it's important on a brand new, when you come out on your show, to get them engaged in that first 5 minutes. Punch them in the face or punch them in the mouth so that they stay and listen for the first, for 20 minutes and get to know you.
They could be bleeding, but at least they got to know you.
Well, literally, when I say punch people in the mouth, you want them to,
grab their attention.
Yeah, right. Grab their attention. Yep.
Right.
Punch them in the nose, and that's how you get someone's attention, right? Usually your fists come up, but you punch someone in the nose, you get their attention very quickly.
So saying that could get us banned. Wanna?
Oh, okay. So we're just using that as a hypothetical. First of all, you can't punch someone in the nose through a earbud.
Oh, you can't, huh? Really?
So, hey, before we go, I know there's a lot of crazy stuff going on out in the world. Please stay safe.
Right. Just stay home.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out and burn down a building. It's not really necessary. I don't think it's not going to change anything.
And I understand there's people pissed off, and rightly so. And it even includes me, but I don't want I want you to stay safe out there.
Right.
In some cities right now, it's kind of crazy. So, and I think we all are not happy with that whole situation. But how could you not be?
Right.
So, anyway, all right. I'm Todd at blueberry.com. You can reach me at Geek News.
I'm on Twitter at Rob Greenlee with 2 E's. And you can send me an email, robg@libsyn.com. Happy to talk with you about podcasting. And I just hope this world kind of settles down, Todd, a little bit, and we kind of can get back to normal. Or is this the new normal?
I don't know. I don't know if it is. But hey, we had a huge number of people both on YouTube and on Facebook today. So thanks for hanging out. I wasn't even paying attention to the YouTube discussion, but I want to thank Bangs for being on there, Brett, Rev, as well. All you folks that basically sent us notes on YouTube. Apologize, I wasn't paying attention to YouTube today. And of course, everyone that was on Facebook, thanks for being here. If you're not subscribed, go over to newmediashow.com and hit that subscribe button right as we showed you on the website here a little earlier. We want you to be part of our family, and we don't have a way to send you a notification, but you know that we're live here every Wednesday and Saturday at this point. We'll be back with you Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern for the next show of the New Media Show.
Yep. Fantastic.
Everyone take care. Be safe out there. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.